Very much welcome to all of you for tonight's webinar, all about the updates to the Omnitas time reporting solution. Your ever hosts here, as always, is both me, Frederick, and Thomas. So without much further ado, I'm actually going to let the product owner take it away for us tonight. So Thomas, that's you.
Yeah, so I figured let's not just focus on the updates. Let's run through the solution and get everybody up to speed so you don't have to look at both the old webinar and the new webinar. So with that said, let me actually share my screen. Perfect. So my Omnitas time reporting app, it's here. We'll talk about time reporting. Remember last time we had a short introduction between the difference of time reporting and time tracking. Time tracking is when we start and stop a watch, either physical or digital, or use some kind of a punch card. Yeah. So we can do time tracking either for attendance, like you do with the punch card. I punch in the morning, I punch out when I leave. Or we can use time tracking for individual deliverables and tasks. When you start the task, you start the timer, you do your work, and you stop the timer. Whereas time reporting is about reporting after the fact, usually end of work day, end of work week. And I go in and I say, this is what I spent my time on. So the difference has becomes quite micromanageable difference, right? In the time tracking version, we need to know every single minute of every single day what it's been spent on. Whereas we work with time reporting, we talk about more general stuff. We can use it for payroll. We can use it to learn about the work we do. Whereas time tracking is very much a performance metric, to be honest.
Yeah, and that's what it is. And it's not always the best if you want to learn more about where do we spend our time and that kind of jazz. Then time reporting might not be the solution for you.
Yeah, time tracking. We do have the Monday.com time tracking column. Hence, we selected to build a time reporting app to close the gap of the time reporting use case. So let's talk about, this is a basic template you get when you install the app. We right now in the template, we have clients, projects, and activities. I cannot stress this enough. You can make those levels, level 1, 2, and 3, anything you want. We're just using clients for now as an example. And if you already have a client list, you can of course use your own client list.
Yeah, kind of should. They are there to be a representation and show you what you can do. You don't need to use them.
Yeah, definitely, exactly. All right, so let's actually jump straight into the time reporting and have a look at how the app look like. There's a table. In the table, let's talk about it. We need a person column. We do not need these two status columns. They're there as an enhanced feature. We do have our different level 1, 2, and 3. We need minimum 1 connect to board. We can have up to 3. We need a date column, a numbers column, and we can have a text column. And then we can add whatever other columns we want, but this is the basic we need in order to run the app. The app is being run as a board view, meaning we go to add view, apps, and then you'll find it in your installed apps. Right now, I've already installed it. Let's look at the settings. You get to select your level 1, level 2, and level 3. In this case, I have my client, project, and activities. As you see, I can easily just change it, so I only have 1 level. When I select this, I can choose whatever I want in whatever order. It doesn't matter. The important is that level 1, 2, and 3 are connected. I select my person column, my date column, my time column. If I want a status column, I select it. I can just as well remove it, so I don't need it. But let's keep it because it's neat. Do I want to be able to add notes? Then I need a note column. Weekends. Should we show them or should we hide them? Let's keep them visible for now. And we do have, I think we have all the free options now. Saturday, Sunday, or Monday as the start of the week. And
who the hell starts a week on a Saturday?
We actually did get that request yesterday, and the devs were super quick at implementing the change.
Oh, yeah. Easy feature to add. Congrats. But yeah, I'm just, who starts the week on a Saturday?
Yeah, well, and then we have the total here, which we can either choose to show or hide. In the settings, we set our little variable. So this is where I have my custom small h. This is not the nicest UI, but we have to live with it. Constraining of columns. This is something we're going to spend quite a few minutes talking about, but just remember, whatever word I put here, that's going to be the prefix on any column to make it have logic when working. So let's remove allowed for now. And manager. Frederick is currently a manager. I'm currently operating as a normal employee. So let's close the settings. Let's go in and let's actually look at, so our client list is just a bunch of clients. We have linked our projects, as you see, with the word allowed project. So keep that in mind. We will be showing how this works. And we also have projects with allowed sub activities. Let's make sure that we have some for all of them. There we go. So, and then we have our activities board as well with the.
And that's our bottom layer, so that they don't need any allowed, right?
Yeah, actually, this is the wrong one.
Oh.
Yeah. There we go. This is what happens sometimes when you duplicate things before the meeting. There we go. Now we have the right ones. So perfect. So let's go back to the time reporting. Remember, I removed the allowed selection, so we don't have any allowed right now. So when I add row, I'm pre-filled here because I'm just working as an employee. When I select client one, I can select from any of the projects, and I can select from any of the wrong connected activities. There we go. There we go. Let's make it like that for now, because so we have less things on the screen. So let's go down and add allowed here again to show you the difference. So Thomas, my client, I can only work client one. And for client one, I had the two projects that we saw. Let's add project one. Why can I only add client one? Let's go into the client list and see. Yes, because we have allowed people here as well. So right now, I'm add myself here to the second one as well. Let's go into the time reporting. Add another row. And now I can also select client 2. All right, so I've added client 1, project 1, client 2, project 2, client 2, project 3. At any given time, I can choose to filter this view to only show the client I'm interested in or the project that I'm interested in. So that's not a problem. If I'm a manager, I can also filter on people.
So, but that's only a manager problem, because you as a normal employee, you will only have yourself, right?
Exactly. Okay, and now I filled out my week, right? As simple as that. Let's actually start looking at some fun settings. We do have a few settings to consider. We have conditional formatting, which is a totally new feature, right? So let's see if we remove this number 2 and we put it over here. So we have less than 8 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours. Okay, conditional formatting. On a cell level, do I care about conditional formatting? Yes, I want to add a red if we are above 8 hours in a single cell. Confirm. So I don't have anything like that, but let's say I write 10. Now that becomes red. Cool. So that's what I just added as a conditional formatting. Row total. I actually don't want any row total setting. I do want a column total, right? We actually want a few. We want green if it equals 8. We want yellow if it's below 8. And we want, let's say, red if it's above 8. Confirm. So now that's this bottom line here that's being filled out. And just for sake of it, let's go in and let's go to the settings and let's hide our weekends. Cool. I also want to work with this here, the total of the total. Let's go into the conditional formatting. Let's look at the total of the total. So I actually have if above less than 40. Let's make it green if it is 40. And let's make it red if above 40. So it's very simple color coding right now, of course, but let's add 2 more hours here, red, red, right? And that's quite cool. We can set any rules we want. We have quite a lot of variables. We have is between, is not between, equal to, not equal to, less than equal to, bigger than, greater than or equal to. So we have everything we need to do a proper setup here.
Yeah, and this is a top tip to actually use this functionality because, as I usually say, our brain is hardwired for pattern and colors. We're not hardwired for text and numbers. Yeah. So it will help you to spot faults quicker.
Perfect. So what's the difference if I would be a manager? So let's actually put myself as a manager here.
And as we can see, now you can filter for person.
Yes, I can filter on person, right? Boop, boop. But when I add a row, it actually asks me who I want to work with. So let's add Frederick. Frederick does not have any clients. Is that correct?
No, I'm not allowed to work. I'm on vacation.
Okay, so let's add Frederick to client free. Back to the time reporting. Add row. Let's select Mr. Frederick. Also, I forgot to mention that we do have this little thingy over here. Now that it used to be that the name was here, we actually added a little portrait, which is cool. I just need to refresh, I think. Yes, client free, whatever project you're allowed to work on, number free. So it's quite easy. Now, the conditional coloring at the bottom makes no sense when I'm in a manager mode. So make sure that when you look at this and use the conditional coloring, you want to have one person only in the view, right? And this is the week Frederick had, right? What a week.
Tough Monday and Friday, but rather good in between, I would say.
So I want to stress again, this conditional coloring, it's only effective from the employee view because as you see now, the total of the total will include all of us, both me and Frederick. So it's actually the cell value conditional coloring that's relevant to me right now. Okay, and then I can choose to, like, you know how it is. I probably want to know that this week is done. I can opt in to select multiple items, just like in Monday. Click the first one, hold shift, click the last one, and then I can change the status for all of them. Perfect. we do have an automation that says when status changes to submitted, change the approval to ready for review, meaning that someone will get a notification, and then we actually have in the main table, you see one submitted and one approval board. So the automation will change this to ready for review, like this. In the time reporting view, we have our submitted. I can then go into the time approval view. It has exactly the same settings, but I've chosen another status column to display, right? And I am a manager here. Keep in mind, this is another view, so the conditional coloring I set up it can be separate between this view and this view. And now I can easily say, you know what, Frederick, your time is approved. And if we want to have any automated workflows on top of that, we just set it up with Monday automations, because status triggers can be used for any corresponding action.
Yeah, I mean, and that's actually one of the main features here. We actually took care to build it so you can use any and all of the Monday automations, because it's built upon the Monday framework. So use it. So, for example, if you would decline someone's time, for example, that should probably notify that person that, yeah, you need to take a look at this or whatever.
Exactly. So let's move on and actually look at the holiday settings, right? You saw it here. It's cool. It's awesome. Let's remove all of them just to make sure that we set it up from scratch for you. So corporate, personal. Corporate means that it's whatever we have is applied to everyone. So I actually have a corporate holiday board. I can select different groups. I can select the start and the end date, confirm. But you know what? For once, let's not do it yellow. Let's make sure that we make it this orange color here. Then I want to set up a personal one, which we make into this very nice purple. Let's do personal holidays. Again, you can select any group. And if you leave it blank, it will grab from all the groups in the board. Timeline and a person column, confirm. So let's look at next week. Over here, you see this Friday, it's a corporate holiday. If I try to add a row, corporate holidays, I put in April 15 and April 18 for Easter. I put in personal holidays, one row for me on the 13th and 14th, and one for Frederick on the 14th. So let's look at how it looks in the app. So we are currently in this week. Let's go to the next week. You know what? We actually worked on exactly the same projects this week. So all we do is we copy from most recent week and we get everything up from scratch. And now we can start entering our time. In Frederick's case, since he's only working on one client, one project, very beneficial for you. It's quite simple and easy.
I love that client.
So I did 6 hours here and 2 hours there. Perfect. Let's switch to the next week and copy from most recent week. You see now what the difference here is, that the Friday is fully colored for both of us, whereas the first day and 14th is only colored for me, because that's when I have my vacation. And now I know that all I have to do is do 6, 1, 1, and 2, whereas Frederick gets to work the whole week on his boring client project. All right, so this is basically the holiday view. We can use dashboard view to see some information on this time reporting board. In this case, I've put in a workload to see how much time has been submitted. If I want to bring in the holidays, I actually need to look at this in a dashboard, because then I can have that source, and that source all showing up in one workload widget. Let's see if we have the time in the end. I'll set that up so you can see it. And then we have one of my favorite features, the pivot table. So this actually shows you everything we have reported in one very nice little view. And we can even on the fly add variables like this to see additional information. We could even remove project if we want to, like this, or look at it just from a person perspective.
And a bit of an asterisk here, if you don't find the pivot table function in your account, that's probably because this is an enterprise feature.
Yes. So in that regard, let's not linger on it too long. When we make the connections to the client and the projects, we can opt in to make that connection two-way, right? So we would have gotten all the data back here. I actually see I did not, so let's just be super quick with it. So it will look something like this when you set it up correctly. And then you will start getting aggregation data from all your time reported onto here. You can do the same with budgeting. If there's no objections from you, Frederick, I would like to move on to the budgeting view.
Yeah, I think so, because I think that's one area where we usually get carried a lot of questions. So I think that would be a good place to spend some time.
Yeah, perfect. Let's look at the settings. We have one additional setting here, which is start of the year. Because what you have in the budgeting view, you actually have a full year view here, January to December, either on a monthly or a weekly view, right? So we can say in the settings, let's start from today. So we actually have March all the way running till March, if we want to.
Yeah, that all depends on your fiscal year and so on and so forth.
Yeah, or if you just want to always plan 12 months from now.
Yeah.
We have our level 1, level 2, level 3. We have a person, budget, status column if we want to. Most likely you don't need it here. Let's talk about the note number in the budget, because that works the same way. I just forgot to talk about it. Week number. So let's look at the week number. You see, this is actually the wrong year, and you have the traditional or the ISO weeks that you can choose from. So depending on how your calendar actually works, and that's geographically, or you can even hide the week, but that's what you have in the week view. Let's stay to the month view because it's easier to show and showcase. Let's make myself a manager because I already was, sorry. Let's jump into the board. So we add a row, we add Thomas, we have client 1, we add project 1. We're going to be skipping activity. And if I click add row again, I can just change one of the variables. You don't need to change every single thing. So this is a good way of prepping. Let's go in and let's get some Frederick time. Level 1, client 3. Level 2, we only have one project, right?
Yeah, I'm dead simple.
Yeah, and let's remove this activity. Quite simple. All we have to do, right? So now let me just check my start here. There we go. So why would I need to use this? Well, we do know in advance sometimes how we're supposed to work with something, right? So Frederick is quite simple. He has on his client, he has 40 hours each month that he works on this client. And then he's going to have a vacation, and then he's going to pick it up again in August. Right? Quite straightforward. And whereas me and client 1, we are going to work 20 hours here. We're going to work 60 hours here, 80 hours, and then 20 hours. And that project is done. We're going to be working on this project for 50 hours and 60 hours. And I can mouse through this as well, so I don't need to use the keyboard when I do it. and 30, whatever, right? So this is my budget for my different projects. I can insert a note like this. I have mouse over here. And that data will now be in the note over here. But this is a good way of creating a budget and say, like, this is how we're going to be spending our time. Same thing here. I do have the conditional formatting. I can work with that if I want to. In our case, we can actually say when the column total, because now we're planning people. I'm planning out 2 people. So if this is above 300, make it red. Above 300, yeah. So I'm reading 200 and thinking 300. So obviously I'm still half asleep. So let's add a bit more time here. And let's add now 300 orange, because that's what the max capacity over 2 people. And right now, obviously, I am being overworked.
I would say I have a lovely March. You may not have.
Yes. So we can actually jump into the dashboard and we can set up a workload to look at this from a fairness perspective as well. Keep in mind, we want to look at this from a month perspective because you need to have the same metric here as the one you're planning. Otherwise, it won't work. So date, person, effort, that's the budget. And let's make it a 40-hour week. Bam. And now we see everything is fine except I am being overworked in March. So in that regards, we can actually from here, we could go in and change. Let's see what we're doing here. We can actually go in and we can push something to Frederick because it's good. And now you see, we are good in March.
Look at that. I'm helpful.
And let's go back and see what that meant for the budget view. We actually have 2 rows now for Frederick in the budget view. So the budget view is about budgeting your hours. Obviously, we have a lot of clients that are using this to budget cash flow and stuff like that. So you can put whatever metric you want in here, but the core idea is to budget hours.
Yeah. So Claire just asked you, can we just take that quickly again from the dashboard view and forward?
Okay. So the dashboard view, I have a workload widget here. The workload widget is set up and I have my standard work week in this. So if I want to change something, let's say part of these 90 hours here, if I open this up, I can see all the items that sit here. If I click one of them, I get a pop-up with all the information. And I can actually go in here and I can unassign myself and assign Frederick to it. And now my April looks very smooth, whereas Frederick is actually getting more work, so that's good.
Yeah, and to be clear here, Claire, this is the only thing you need to do because this is all linking back, so it's actually changing the real data. That's why the budgeting view now will be changed.
Yeah, and now you see Frederick has more stuff in his budgeting view. So he has free lines because of different representations of different. He actually has project 1, 2, and 3 assigned to him. It's still that if we choose Frederick, we still can only assign him to level 3. So we need to in this board because this is respecting the allowed persons that we had in the client board. But we can override that when we look at it from a workload perspective, which is good in my opinion.
Yeah. Because otherwise it would be a hassle that you need to go in and, this person shouldn't even be able to do that and so on and so forth. So it's a good thing.
So I want to show you how we can compare this to then what we actually time reported. So let's add a formula column. Let's take our budget and multiply that with -1. Now we get a negative value. So let's set up a dashboard. And this dashboard, let's call it time overview. Create dashboard. When you create the dashboard, it asks you for your sources. We want to use budget. We want to use the time reporting. Done. We want to have a workload widget. And when I go into the settings, item level, date correct, resource type, budgeting, that should be the person column, effort, that should be effort, and hours. And in the budgeting, we want to use the formula. Okay. And let's switch this to month view. So what we now see is our budget in negative values, right? So Frederick is supposed to do 16 more hours in April than what he's already reported. And we can see how it's building up. And actually, I did one wrong setting, because when we have a negative like that, the target should actually be 0. Because in April, I am overworking based on what I'm budgeted on.
Exactly.
So this is what it will look like when there's a level of balance in budgeted hours and reported hours. Let's show you a cool thing that you can actually go in and change the resource type from people to connected boards, and then you can select your clients. So now you can see this the same view, but on a client perspective or on a project specific perspective. We were not supposed to do anything in February on project 2. We have done 22 hours more than we're supposed to do on project 1, because this is what happens with demo data, right?
Yeah, and knowing a few companies out there, I would say that that actually happens in reality as well. But then you need to check your invoicing.
Yeah. So some of the big things is that we have the new conditional formatting. We have the new holidays thing. We also have the week starting and ending. We do have a lot better performance, but we also have one really cool thing. We actually do have a dashboard widget as well. So you can add budgeting to a dashboard. Then you just need to go through all your settings. No status, note, show row total. Do you recognize those timings, guys? This is exactly the dates that we entered earlier. So I can have them next to each other as well.
And this is so great.
Yeah, so let's say we are minus 20, minus 40. Let's make sure that we don't want to have that situation. So we can actually clear stuff. February. January, let's go in and check with January. See, it's being updated live. So I have 34 more on Thomas in April. Then I can go to April, one of the Thomas line, and add 30 just to show you what we're now going to see. It's going to be popping soon. And now it's just a 4. So we can also remove. We make this 6, meaning that Frederick was, we make this 4. And I need another 4 hours in April. and I can see all the changes live when I do my budgeting. The time reporting will not be part of it. It cannot be in the dashboard, but because usually you want to see the different variables of what you're doing. We could also put a chart view in here as well, right? Where we say put up like a setting on. Let's do this date, month by month, stack by connected board, and that would be clients, y-axis, numbers in hours, right? Boards, let's remove the time reporting board. You see what we're looking at now. We actually are seeing, let's put them next to each other on this length here, just to illustrate. So I want to add time to January. So if I do, I add 10, I add 20, I add 40, 40, 10, 10, 30. See, January kept building. So this is one of the cool things we can do with this dashboard widget. What do you think about that, Frederick?
I'm basically astounded because actually I haven't had the chance to look at the new dashboard widget myself yet for budgeting. So this is actually the first time for me as well seeing it. And it's really lovely, and it's so much going to help having this, all of your data and all of your metrics on the same place, not having to switch in to go to do your budgeting and then go back to see how everything, but just getting this live overview where things are actually happening as you go along. It's a great feature, and I know it's a feature that many of you have requested, and it's finally here, guys. It's finally here. Actually, there's actually one more new feature that we didn't mention, and that's the week type switcher. So you can switch between traditional and ISO week. Yeah. That's actually a new feature for this last update as well.
Yeah, and remember that every view has its own conditional formatting. So this dashboard widget is now a view. So if we want to add any of those column totals that we discussed earlier, so add a condition of yellow when above 300, I do need to add it here again, so please bear that in mind. But I can also add stuff as benchmark lines into my chart view, which is super convenient. I just love seeing this chart move instantly, more or less.
Yeah, it's totally great. And now we can directly say, oh yeah, April, that's going to be tough.
Yeah. So then we can always reduce or work it around. And once depending on how we set it up, we will then get everything, all the projects. I'm moving to another client list now, just for the sake of it. So we do see this is what we budgeted, this is what we reported, and we can then start tracking the difference, meaning I could do a dashboard on this board alone. I don't need to bring in all my sources because I only want to compare these three values. So I can actually do a chart on this board as well, right? And say settings. Oh, sorry. X-axis, let's do name, y-axis, budget, time, and difference. And when you have these kind of views, I would actually advise to do x-axis ascending, so you get them in alphabetical order instead, which you didn't get for some reason. Oh, you do, because the small letter C is counting differently.
Yeah, I would say it makes a difference between if you capitalize it or not.
Yeah. So this is a good way of just running an overview to compare your budget versus spend. And you remember what we talked about another webinar ago? We could do conditional coloring on the row when, so in this case, the time is a negative. So when difference is below 0. There we go. And now we have marked out all the projects that have exceeded their budget hour-wise.
Which is really good to know.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you can be smart about it as well. So you can tell the system to make it yellow when you are approaching that limit, for example, and then make it red when you hit the limit and so on. So you can actually get fair warning
Yes.
in advance and maybe stop your team and say, like, guys, slow down because we can't invoice this many hours or whatever.
And it's actually the interesting thing with the time reporting app is that it's to be honest, it is a view, and that's what you're getting. It's a view that's helping you look at the data in a different way. It's easy and smooth to report and get everything in quite early nicely. The data is then structured in a way that you can use Monday automations or use any dashboard widget and so on to look at your data. Also, something that we get a lot, we do have an item level limit per board. We have several ways of managing that. One of them is to set up automation saying X amount of days or months after this date column, if the time is approved, move it to another board so you can then have a fresh one. So we actually have a lot of setups for clients where a month after it's been approved, the time no longer exists here. It doesn't matter if you send it to 5, 10, 12 other different boards, because you'll still be using a dashboard to look at everything after the fact.
Exactly. Yeah. And the only thing you need to take into account there is depending on your plan structure. But of course, we usually recommend you to be on an enterprise plan, and then you have no problem whatsoever.
Yes. And I want to spend the last minutes talking about what's coming, right?
So, what's up, Doc?
So we are looking at a native archiving functionality, so we can actually have time-based rules that moves these items into another board and groups them as sub-items onto an item, which will allow you to have basically, we see it as 100x factor on the board limit when this is implemented.
So that means basically that if you're on a pro account and you have a 10,000, and then you basically pop that up into a million.
Yeah. We are also looking at the ability to mark several cells and fill out one value in all of the cells. That's a coming feature.
Which is really, really good when you like reporting your everyday kind of thing. So like, yeah, it's 8 hours for the whole week. Come on now.
and the biggest use case is actually if you're doing budgeting in week view and you need to fill out like 10 hours every single week for the year, right?
Yeah. Yeah, or even my project that you planned before, 40 hours every month.
And we're actually changing the name of the budget view to planning view. That is a change that you are going to see because budget has led people to assume that we're dealing with money, which we mostly aren't. We're also going to put a dashboard onboarding experience inside the app with video tutorials, additional PDFs to make it easier for you to get started.
Yeah. Which is going to be great. I've already seen the films.
Yeah, we are starting with looking at a start and stop watch inside of the time reporting. We're not really sure about how to implement it because it sort of goes against the principle of the app, but it is a feature that we have been requested, so we are looking to add it. We want to find a way of helping you track timesheet submission and automate reminders for people who hasn't submitted a time at end of week or early the week after. We are also discussing if we should have holidays autofill the timesheet instead of having to use multiple sources in a workload widget to see the full picture of the work week. I know a lot of people who's using the app have commented on the fact that we do at times create blank rows in the main table where there's no hours or there's 0 hours. This is something the team is working on. Full transparency, this is actually because we have made it a point that no data leaves your Monday.com account. So everything is being read in the cache in the web browser as you work. So when you created a new row, in order for you to not lose the data, it actually created a row automatically in the board and then before waiting for you to fill out data. So we're going to be changing the infrastructure a little around the app to allow that nothing is written to the board until you actually fill out a number. This does not mean that the data will be leaving your Monday account, and that's why it takes a lot of time to rebuild this functionality. We will be using the Monday.com temporary storage and not pass anything outside of your accounts anyway. But the team is expecting late April for that. We have had discussions about single day time reporting view. We'll see if that's keep being a common request. We'll add it.
It's basically up to you guys here. So when you are using the product, when you are using the app, feel free to come with suggestions. We don't promise that everything you come with will be implemented, but we do promise that everything you come with will be looked at.
Yeah. And I think the onboarding will do a lot of work. The guides that we're putting out now, there's a lot of stuff that's going to be helping there.
Yeah, and it's really high quality films and video clips coming into it. So you actually get really, really good help about getting started.
Yes. And then let's talk about mobile support. As soon as the Monday.com app framework is available to allow third-party apps that not only read, because right now, mobile apps that only read data is actually available on Monday on mobile, but we are waiting for Monday to do the final things on the framework to allow the app to run at all, because so you can actually report. And that's probably at the same time where the single day and time entry will make sense.
Definitely. But that will be a great day as well when you have that mobile functionality. So let's just wait for Monday. We're ready, right?
Anything else to add, Frederick?
No, I think we basically gone through all the highlights, and we actually went through the whole app again. So you have, you should at least have a really good view on what you can do with it and how to use it and actually how to set it up. It's a big thank you from me and from Thomas. Lovely to seeing all of you here tonight. And for those of you watching after the fact on YouTube, hi everyone, thanks for watching. Do remember to sign up for our YouTube channel and for our newsletter to get the latest information. And I can tell you there are some really, really interesting webinars coming up in the near future. Amongst one is one of our Thomas new pet projects. I'm not going to say more than that, but have a check on our website in a bit, or subscribe to our newsletter, and you will be the first to know.
Tease it more than that, because it's quite a big thing. Like
yeah, it is actually a really big thing. So what we've done is actually we built a complete portal for ticketing and support errands to Monday. Thomas, do you want to tease a bit more?
So it's reading items from Monday live, and you're able to communicate with the portal and the item through the updates. You can add files, and we also gonna add the ability to update some of the fields that you are allowing to be updated in. So basically, a full-fledged ticketing portal is now very, very soon available on top of Monday.com.
So basically, say goodbye to Zendesk and say hi to Monday. So
thank you everyone for attending.
Thank you so much for being here. See you next time.